Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Rebecca Maddern.
Good afternoon. First at 4, a regional hospital is at the centre of a bizarre government scandal with staff accused of posing as sick patients ahead of a ministerial visit. A major investigation has now been launched into the staged photo opportunity, as state political reporter Chanel Vella reports.
When Marianne Thomas visited this urgent care clinic in Colac, it was a very routine visit. But now it's being claimed that the patients propped up in beds were fakes. The Health Minister made the trip to Colac in August last year to inspect the facility. Patients were noticed in the waiting area and in beds. An anonymous complaint claims they were planted there to make the facility look busy. It's alleged up to 10 friends and family, as well as staff from the Colac facility, were admitted ahead of the minister arriving. Shortly after the visit, it's believed all 10 were checked out without treatment. The state government has confirmed the matter was referred to IBAC and the Ombudsman. It's now being investigated by the Department of Health.
If these allegations prove to be true, this is a very significant breach of trust that has been perpetrated by some in the health service, and I certainly would take a very dim view of any employees or others who have been involved in this. Absolutely, this has nothing whatsoever to do with my office, and if anyone is suggesting that, then I would take great offence.
7 News contacted Colac Area Health for comment. They said while they take all feedback seriously and the complaint is being actioned, they have no further comment to make at this time.
2 teenagers have been arrested over 2 sickening attacks on cyclists in Melbourne. They're accused of deliberately mowing down the bike riders in a stolen car before posting footage of the attacks online. Both cyclists were hospitalised with serious injuries. Police arrested 2 16-year-old boys in Melbourne's southeast overnight. They're facing more than a dozen charges, and we'll have more on this story tonight coming up in our bulletin at 6 o'clock. A thug has avoided jail time despite a brutal attack on North Melbourne champion Jack Ziebell. He escaped with just a fine after punching the former Roos captain to the ground and kicking him as he lay defenceless. Rochelle Brown was in court.
The brutal bashing left the North Melbourne champion hospitalised. Today, Jack Ziebell revealed the emotional toll the incident took in a private statement to a magistrate. The former Roos captain was celebrating his final match with teammates and had stepped outside the Osborne rooftop and bar to check on a friend when he was attacked. On the phone with no warning, he was pushed into a wall, punched with such force that he was knocked to the ground and then kicked while he was down. The man responsible, Ibrahim Balouli, left him lying on the ground as he walked away.
Balouli, you left Jack Ziebell lying on the ground. You kicked him. What do you have to say about it?
Balouli kept his hood up and head down as he left Melbourne Magistrates Court with a $25,000 fine and a stern warning. Balouli was involved in a second altercation minutes before he attacked Mr Ziebell with Kangaroos forward Charlie Comben, who was pushed to the floor and struck 6 times to the back of the neck. The prosecution pushed for jail time, but the 21-year-old's lawyer argued he was on the phone to police within 24 hours to own up to the attack. His co-offender was fined $1,800 for his role in the fight. A third man had his charges dismissed.
Victoria's regional rail network is set to be hit by rolling strikes as a bitter dispute for better paying conditions escalates. Workers will walk off the job during the morning commute between 3 and 7 a.m. on Monday, February the 12th and Friday the 15th, then the following Monday and Friday. Victorians relying on the regional network are being urged to work from home, but there will be replacement buses put on to help minimise disruptions. Better than expected inflation data has prompted high-level calls for the Reserve Bank to start cutting interest rates. Let's go live to Canberra and political reporter Rob Scott this afternoon. The Queensland Premier is leading the charge on this.
Afternoon. Yes, he is, Becca. Stephen Miles says after yesterday's surprise figures showing that inflation has dropped to its lowest level in 2 years, it's time for the RBA to start cutting rates. It's a pretty unusual call. Politicians tend to be careful not to be seen to be putting pressure on the central bank, but he has thrown that convention out of the window today. He's even urging the banks not to wait for the RBA and to start slashing their rates as soon as possible.
Now that inflation has turned a corner, they should act just as quickly to cut rates as they did to increase rates. There is no rule that says the banks can't cut rates in advance of the RBA. They put the rates up before the RBA did, so they can cut them before the RBA does.
Even the Prime Minister was more direct with his language today. He's still sticking to the line that the RBA is independent, although he made his feelings very well known.
I, of course, would like to see cuts to interest rates. I'd like to see any measure that takes pressure off low and middle income earners.
With monthly inflation dropping to 3.4% in December, market expectations are now overwhelmingly that the RBA will leave rates on hold when the board meets next week. And economists are growing increasingly confident we'll see the first of 3 possible cuts from around June onwards, although the bank may decide to hold off until after the revamped Stage 3 tax cuts kick in from July. Beck.
All right, Rob Scott, thank you. To breaking news now, and Football Australia is dealing with a massive data breach. The national body reportedly leaked secret keys to a database containing personal information. Passports and contracts of Australian soccer players could have been accessed, as well as the details of ticket buyers. Researchers at Cyber News say the leak was likely due to human error rather than a cyber attack. Football Australia is now investigating. Vision has emerged that the 45 Taipan military helicopters retired and about to be junked by the Australian Defence Force. Ukraine says it desperately needs the $900 million force in any condition, but our government says it is too late. Chris Reason has the story.
Good afternoon. Well, these are images that will leave Ukraine supporters and defence insiders in absolute despair. The Australian Taipan fleet discovered in Townsville, decommissioned and in mothballs. It's been a controversial decision that has haunted the federal government. Now 7 News has located the under wraps Taipans at a RAF base in Townsville. They are stripped in pieces and destined for spare parts sale and eventual burial in the ground. The decision to decommission them came early last September, the government citing safety concerns, despite many countries swearing by them and despite the Ukraine government making a formal request for them. Ukraine uses helicopters that are sometimes decades old, Soviet era. They say they're prepared to transport them and repair them, but the government says the request came too late and they want the spare parts sale to benefit Australian taxpayers. The helos are worth a conservative $20 million each. Ukraine lobbyist says they're desperate for them.
We're on the cusp of the 2nd anniversary of the full invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So we're calling on government on the 2nd anniversary to make sure that there's a significant military package, support package for Ukraine.
Defence insiders and analysts have also called the decision scandalous, saying the MRH-90 Taipan still had enormous benefit for the Ukraine battlefield, particularly in getting injured soldiers to medical care. Campaigners now suggesting the federal government appoint a Ukraine commissioner or coordinator to make sure this doesn't happen again. The Ukraine community spokesman saying that if the federal government was prepared to change its position on Stage 3 tax cuts, it should also be prepared to consider changing its positions on the Taipan fleet. Back to you.
Thank you, Chris. A record-breaking $200 million will be on the line tonight in the biggest lottery in Australian history. Half of all adults in the country are expected to buy a Powerball ticket, with the most optimistic bunch already making plans on how they'd spend their money.
I'd still work because my wife would hate me if I didn't work. That'd be an absolute nightmare. There's only a certain amount of times you can mow the lawn.
What will you do if you're the lucky winner?
Pack my bags and disappear and tell my missus I'm sick and I'll never be home again and she'll never ever know about it.
Last week, ahead of the $150 million jackpot, the peak of sales saw a flurry of 7,000 tickets bought in a single minute. The lot is expected a similar rush tonight. Later, we'll be joined by mathematician and comedian Adam Spencer to crunch the numbers on your odds of winning. Well, the humble password could soon be a thing of the past, so how should you keep your accounts safe? Expert advice next. Plus, a teen arrested over a frightening stunt on a speed camera worker. And the new bombshell evidence decades after the infamous BBC Princess Diana interview. We've got a big hour of news ahead. Please stick around. A teenage boy has been charged over a frightening attack on a female speed camera operator in Melbourne's northeast. The 15-year-old is accused of repeatedly striking a car window as the worker sat inside before smashing the side mirror with his foot.
What's going on? Yeah, you dogs.
The Calcallo boy will face the Children's Court at a later date. Well, cybersecurity experts are warning Australians to update the way they set up their passwords. They say traditional methods are on their way out as data breaches become more and more frequent. We are now joined live by cybersecurity expert at the University of New South Wales, Professor Richard Buckland. Professor, appreciate your time on this very important issue. Firstly, what do the experts actually mean by traditional methods and why are they high risk?
Well, your traditional way of proving who you are to a computer is to have a username and a password's a secret that you know. And the idea is you're the one that knows the password, so must be you.
Passkey is being recommended for people to use instead of that traditional way. For people who aren't aware of passkey, what is that?
Oh, well, it's one of a range of things called digital authentication techniques. The idea is it's a device or you can install software on your phone or computer that you authenticate yourself to the device and that it authenticates you to the website or the bank or something like that. The idea being you can trust passkey not to forget your password or share it. So that's safe then. So it's easier for you.
Okay. So
but of course comes with risks.
Yeah. Well, what happens though if can your passkey account be hacked?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously they're saying no, and they've got lots of great security protections on it. But we've seen since 2011, really, where RSA, one of the biggest ID companies in the world, was hacked by the Chinese military, and that led to worldwide thousands of companies being compromised. So, of course, there probably can't be a hack, but it's a bit like Powerball. If they do hack it, then the winning is vast for them. So they're very motivated to hack it. So it is a risk.
Okay, so at this point, what is the best way to go?
It's hard, isn't it? I mean, it's a hard problem, and like dieting, there is no easy solution. I think it probably depends on your exact level of risk. If you're just a normal person with small amounts of money and you don't do much on the internet, you can probably just get away with a password manager on your web browser. The main thing to remember is pick hard passwords and don't reuse them. And I know we're all in the habit of reusing them, but pick a new one each time. For anything that's super secure, what I do is I just write it down on a piece of paper. You can't hack that, but of course I can lose it. So there is another risk.
You're talking.
If you're a spy,
now you're talking my language.
That's right. Yeah, and I was just going to say, if you're a spy or a large corporate, of course, you have to do other things. But that's what you and I would do.
The thing with passwords, though, it's very hard. Some require you to have 8 digits, a letter, something, and then you get yourself all very confused. You can understand why people just try to have that same password, and often that's the one that can be easily hacked.
Oh, it's so understandable. And that's, of course, why the bad guys make so much money out of it. Can I just encourage everyone, even really lazy people like me, just don't do that. It's so tempting, but pick a really hard password and change it for each account. You don't have to change it over time. Once you've picked it, you can keep it for that account, but just don't reuse them and use the password manager that's built into your web browser. It'll remember them.
Okay, I'll have a look at that tonight. Professor Richard Buckland, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Good luck.
Thank you. Well, St Vincent's Hospital is investigating a privacy breach after a sensitive photo of a Sydney shark attack victim was leaked to social media. The photo shows her bitten leg and appears to have been taken from inside the emergency department soon after she arrived. The hospital has apologised, saying all patients should expect to have their privacy respected. She's expected to make a full recovery after surgery. Disgraced British journalist Martin Bashir has blamed jealousy and racism for the scandal surrounding his infamous interview with Princess Diana. Thousands of secret documents have just been released, thrusting the interview back into the spotlight almost 30 years on. Here's Europe Bureau Chief Hugh Whitfelds.
More than 3,000 emails have been released under Freedom of Information relating to the BBC interview that Princess Diana gave in 1995, where she said, famously, there were 3 in her marriage to Charles. Back in 2020, a documentary showed evidence Diana had been tricked or deceived into giving the interview via fake bank statements made at the BBC. At the time, the journalist Martin Bashir was defending himself in emails to the BBC. He blamed professional jealousy for the furor. At the time, he said it was also apparent that there was some irritation that a second-generation immigrant of non-white working-class roots should have the temerity to enter a royal palace and conduct an interview, saying it wouldn't happen to an established white journalist. The BBC denies any cover-up or accusations of acting in bad faith. It is yet another ugly chapter in a story that has stretched on now for nearly 30 years after an interview that was at the time the scoop of the century.
Well, sport is coming up next, including the inspirational backstory behind a Carlton star's footy comeback. We'll hear from him next. From whipping boy to cult hero, Mitch Marsh relives his night to remember. And Law and Order, police rescue a curious toddler trapped in a toy machine. Today's Top Sport is next. Plenty more news to follow. Live from Melbourne, you are watching 7's afternoon news. 23 degrees outside right now. Jane Bunn will be here with a forecast a little later in the hour. Time now for sport, though, with Andrew McCormack. A Carlton star has revealed the emotional toll of a brutal 12 months.
Yeah, that's right, Beck. Zach Williams has endured more than most already during his time at Carlton. The running defender is finally back after missing all of last year with a torn ACL. Williams also lost his sister Sam to a battle with cancer in 2023.
I'll be definitely wearing a black armband for her, and I'll probably wear it all year, to be honest, for her, and take her out with me all year. So I've got a lot of motivation this year, coming from, sort of knee rehab stuff, and then but also personal stuff as well.
Good luck to him. We'll have more from the Blues coming up at 6 p.m. tonight. All-rounder Mitch Marsh has cemented himself as Australia's cricket cult hero. Marsh says he's still pinching himself after claiming the Allen Border Medal and delivering an emotional speech that gave hope to cricket tragics everywhere.
Well, it's been an incredible 12 months for Aussie all-rounder Mitch Marsh. Once the self-proclaimed most despised man in Australian cricket, last night's award cemented his place as the toast of the Aussie men's game. While he was still jovial this morning, the all-rounder stole the show last night, making fun of his love of a beer while making an emotional tribute to Aussie captain Pat Cummins and coach Andrew McDonald.
I'd like to pay particular thank yous to Ronnie and Paddy. I'm a bit fat at times and I love a beer, but but you see the best in me always.
And my little throwaway line there is hopefully quite relatable to a lot of Australians.
It was a special night too for Ash Gardner, cementing her place at the pinnacle of women's cricket, adding a second Belinda Clark medal to her collection after first taking out the award back in 2022.
Being able to win this award twice now is certainly just as special as the first.
Nathan Lyon was the Shane Warne Test Player of the Year, while Marsh capped off his night with the one-day crown as well. Jason Behrendorff was the T20 player, while Matt Short took out the domestic short form award for the second year in a row. As for Australia, they're gearing up for a one-day series against the West Indies that starts at the MCG tomorrow.
Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham are back into the Premier League top 4 after an electrifying comeback win over Brentford. Down 1-0, Spurs scored 3 goals in 8 minutes early in the second half to take control of the contest, going on to win 3-2.
Richarlison, and it's 3 in a breathtaking 7-minute spell.
Second half, I think 25 minutes, 30 minutes were outstanding. We scored 3 great goals and probably should have had a couple more.
Liverpool extended its winning streak to 4 matches, crushing Chelsea at Anfield 4-1 to move 5 points clear on top of the table. Reigning champions Manchester City moved into second with a 3-1 win over Burnley. And they've got a game in hand on top of the ladder too. How good was it, Mitch Marsh? Seeing him this morning. He is an absolute champion, isn't he? He's a whipping boy of Aussie cricket, and now he's just an absolute fan
I'm going to go and watch
favourite.
that speech again. It was a good one.
Yep.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Becca. Well, an adventurous 3-year-old boy has sparked a dramatic rescue after spending an hour trapped inside a Hello Kitty claw machine in Brisbane. Katrina Blowers has the story.
Good afternoon. Well, this is not the same claw machine that Ethan got stuck in. The company had to replace the original with another one after police smashed the glass to get 3-year-old Ethan out. On Saturday night, the adventurous toddler found the toys inside just too irresistible, making his way through the flap and getting stuck inside the machine, where he stayed playing with toys for a whole hour. His parents say they kept themselves calm so not to frighten him. Ethan, on the other hand, found the whole experience wonderful, even though it was some time before he could be rescued. With the help of his dad, police got Ethan to lie in a corner while they smashed their way in and eventually pulled him to safety.
Glass? Perfect. Go to that back corner. Now, Ethan, cover your eyes, hide.
And tonight on 7 News at 6, we'll bring you a very special interview with Ethan and his mum and dad. Did he get to keep any of the toys? Well, you'll have to watch to find out.
We are approaching 4:30 next. Residents forced to duck for cover as gunshots ring out in Melbourne's northwest. Plus, the latest on strike action threatening to cripple our country train network. Social media bosses accused of having blood on their hands for exploiting children. And a record-breaking Powerball up for grabs tonight. We take a look at the odds for you. We are back in just a couple of minutes. I'll see you then.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Rebecca Maddern.
Hello again. Returning to our top story now, and the Health Minister has been questioned over her knowledge of a staged photo scandal at a regional hospital. Staff at Colac Area Health, as well as their family and friends, are accused of posing as sick patients ahead of a ministerial visit in a ploy to make the facility look busy. The Department of Health is now investigating, and the matter has been referred to IBAC and the Ombudsman.
Absolutely. This has nothing whatsoever to do with my office, and if anyone is suggesting that, then I would take great offence.
We've got a health minister who is so under siege that, having referred this fake patient scandal to IBAC, didn't even think it was appropriate to tell the Victorian people.
Colac Area Health says the complaint is being actioned but wouldn't comment further. Regional passengers are facing new travel pain with the V-Line network to grind to a halt across 4 days this month. Tyra Stowers has the latest. Hello, Tyra. V-Line workers are stepping up their bitter fight over pay and conditions.
They are back. Station staff will walk off the job for 4 hours during the morning commute on Monday, February 12th and Friday the 16th. Then following Monday and Friday now, the stoppages will last from 3 a.m. until 7 a.m. but are expected to cause major disruptions throughout the day. Contract negotiations have been ongoing since June last year without any breakthrough, with the union taking aim at the Allen government.
If 4 days are not enough, we intend to continue taking action until the Allen Labor government recognises our workers' needs and come to party with that.
The sticking points that remain are mostly around pay, where the union claims are well in excess of government wages policy settings. These disruptions won't help anybody. It's more important than ever to get back to the talks rather than the strikes.
Now, the union is also urging country commuters to work from home, but there will be replacement buses available for those who need to travel. Beck.
Tyra Stowers reporting live. Thank you so much. A gunman has opened fire on a group of people and a car in Melbourne's northwest. The 23-year-old man initially ran from the scene before being arrested at a house in Hillside this morning. No one was injured in the attack. Police believe the shooting was targeted. Social media bosses have been told they have blood on their hands, accused of not doing more to protect children bullied to death. US correspondent Tim Lester was there as the CEOs of Facebook and Instagram faced a Senate grilling.
The CEOs of the world's most popular social media sites dragged in front of a US Senate hearing today to answer questions about their platforms and the exploitation of children. They faced some angry senators.
You have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
But more confronting for the tech bosses, parents, many holding pictures of their dead children. Some had been bullied relentlessly through social media. Others had accessed drugs through the platforms. One senator began pushing the boss of Instagram owner Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, to say sorry.
There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now? Well, they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims? Would you like
Zuckerberg turned to the families, telling them it's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered.
I don't feel like he has emotion.
Too little, too late.
The social media executives say they are stepping up measures to protect users, working with law enforcement and using artificial intelligence to catch harmful content. The hearing and its tense exchanges lasted almost 4 hours, but finished with few firm outcomes. There have been hearings like it before, and yet America's Congress is yet to pass significant laws in the area.
Changing pace now, the biggest lottery in Australian history, a staggering $200 million will be drawn tonight. Half of all Australians are expected to buy a Powerball ticket after 6 consecutive draws failed to produce a number one winner. Adam Spencer, mathematician and comedian, joins us now to crunch the numbers. Hey Adam, good to see you. Firstly, the question's on everyone's minds. What are your chances of winning tonight?
OK, you've got to win 7 balls out of 35. That's a 1 in 6.8 million chance. And then the Powerball, 1 in 20. The total odds, 1 in 134 million for any individual ticket you buy to win this evening.
OK, that doesn't fill me with confidence, but someone's got to win.
Oh, that's not true. No one won last week at 150 million. That's why we're at 200. I think tonight there's a real chance it will. So many people are buying tickets now, it could well go off, but this thing's failed to go off 6 times in a row to even get us this far.
Is there any way to make yourself more likely to win?
Yeah, so look, there are a couple of things that might help slightly. When people pick numbers themselves, they tend not to pick long strings of numbers. You want to pick numbers. You can't increase your chances of winning. You don't want to share it with lots of other people. So maybe pick a long string of numbers, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe pick numbers over 31 in case people pick birth dates, etc. I strongly recommend against picking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guarantee that's the most popular pick going round tonight.
Is that right? Now, are you better off joining a syndicate or going solo? Because I know a lot of people in our newsroom have done both.
The one thing I strongly recommend if you're part of a syndicate, the rules have to be absolutely crystal clear. What happens if Gary, who's put in $100 every Monday for the last 3 years, missed out this Monday gone because his kid is he still part? Because I've seen workplaces torn apart by people arguing over whether someone's money got in on time, etc. And if someone invites you into a syndicate saying, I guarantee we're going to win, run as far as you can from that person as quickly as possible. OK.
Now, the stakes are obviously very high tonight. If the prize is bigger, are our odds of winning lower?
Great question. An individual ticket is still a 1 in 134 million chance. There's a bigger prize pool, but a lot more people playing, so you're much more likely to get that prize split 2, 3, 4 ways. It could still be tens of millions of dollars that you win, but the odds that change are the odds that you might be splitting it with other people.
OK, so the odds are... Look, they're not great. So do you have a ticket or tickets?
No, I tend not to buy tickets in these things. I just sit back and let the statistics wash over me.
I see. There you go. Very smart. Adam Spencer, thank you very much for your time. I'll email you my winning tomorrow. Thank you.
Have a mathematical day.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Well, still to come, the concussion crackdown for sporting children, what it could mean for parents next. Plus, Melbourne's tobacco war seeps further into our regions, and a council sting for dozens of residents trapped in a car park nightmare in St Kilda. Those stories and more are still to come here on 7's Afternoon News. Arsonists are on the run, wanted over the firebombing attack of a tobacco store in Ballarat. The business on Little Bridge Street was hit around 4:30 this morning, causing significant damage. Police are trying to work out if this attack is an extension of Melbourne's tobacco turf war. The Australian Institute of Sport is upgrading its concussion guidelines for junior sports players all the way up to the top level. Athletes will need to sit out of competitive sport for 3 weeks before they return to the field, and now need to be symptom-free for at least 14 days. We're now joined live by the CEO of Sports Medicine Australia, Jamie Crane. Jamie, appreciate your time this afternoon. This new advice will set out clear guidelines for everyone involved in youth and community sport. What is the main message and how important are these changes?
Sure. Thanks, Rebecca. Well, there's several messages, I suppose, in terms of what we want to achieve here. But the main objective here is consistency in how we apply these guidelines. And I think that historically, we haven't been great in that, depending on who you talk to, where you go, where you play sport, you might get treated differently by different people if you were to sustain a concussion. So the guidelines here are trying to be very clear and consistent, and when they hopefully are adopted by many of the national sporting organisations and that filters down to grassroots level, we're going to see the same application no matter which sport you're playing.
If an athlete has a knock to the head, what is the worst that can happen?
Oh, look, the worst that can happen, that's a bit of a hypothetical question, but clearly any knock to the head is not a great thing. So our overarching principle here is that if in doubt, sit them out. So if someone sees a concussive impact and there's a suspected injury there, the best thing to do is to remove the player from the field, assess them if there's a tool available like the CRT6, and refer them to a healthcare professional as soon as possible, which would then allow a more formal diagnosis of concussion. But it's important to take action, and that's one of the key messages here is it's a serious issue. We don't want it to scare people, but we want it to be managed appropriately, and that's why these guidelines, our aim is about consistency.
Yeah. Jamie, I'm just wondering, should we be taking this a step further and ban tackling for kids in sport altogether?
Look, it's a difficult question, that one. I'm not sure that we would be advocating a complete ban, and there are reasons for that involving unintended consequences. We know that if we were to remove certain aspects of the game, that could be a good thing, and we can manage tackling, and there's some rule changes that might work well, as we've seen with Rugby Australia and lowering the height of tackles and so forth, and that is a positive step. But at the same time, we wouldn't want children to get to their mid-teens, late teens and never had exposure to contact sport, because these are some of the skills you actually have to learn from an early age in order to become competent. And if you get to those later stages, in your teens, having not been exposed to contact sport, and then suddenly you are, we might find there are worse injuries as a result of that.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, we'll have to leave it there this afternoon. Jamie Crane, thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
More than 100 residents of a St Kilda building fear their lives could be disrupted for weeks after a mistake by contractors doing routine maintenance. A crack in their apartment driveway means their cars are trapped in underground parking indefinitely. Here's Nick McCallum.
It's estimated 120 cars are trapped in this car park, and their owners are frustrated because they're getting so few answers. Workers damaged the ramp leading into the car park. From inside, you can see the gaping hole and the dust and cement settled underneath in a storage cage. The car's just sitting there because the ramp is considered too dangerous to drive on. It leaves their owners in limbo.
My car's locked in here. I'm actually meant to be shifting house this week, which is a real pain in the backside. I settled a new house yesterday. I'm trying to move into it, and I've been walking bags outside and putting them in a friend's car. So
I'm looking at borrowing a car to get to work, so I haven't even been able to get to work. So I've had 4 days off now. It's not ideal at all. It's pretty frustrating.
Those whose cars are not trapped have to park on the street where there are severe restrictions. They're constantly running down to the street to move their vehicles to dodge fines.
Every 4 hours.
Every 4 hours you've got to come down.
Well, I'm lucky enough to get a 4-hour spot. If you've got a 1-hour spot, which is just here on the outside of the road here, then it's every hour.
We're unable to issue temporary permits because there will be a flow-on effect to the people who are eligible for permits in the area. However, we are working with the body corporate manager to identify other parking locations that they can secure for their residents.
The owners' corporation here will not talk to us, but residents believe it could take weeks before this car park is open again.
Alcohol prices are soaring to record highs. Details next. Also ahead, we speak to the brave schoolgirl who took on a snake to save her guinea pig. And Jane Bunn will have a look at the weather before the end of the working week. The tax on alcohol is going up again, leading to fears a $15 pint of beer could soon become the norm. It means a litre of alcohol officially costs $101.85. It's the most recent cost of living figures. Alcohol went up by 2.8%, the highest jump in any category. Distillers say the tax is rising so quickly, it's crippling hundreds of Australian businesses. A 12-year-old girl has shared what was running through her mind when she took on a snake as it sized up her pet guinea pig for dinner. She spoke with Tiani Reid.
When 12-year-old Rosie saw her pet guinea pig Maxibon in a death grip, there was not enough time to think, let alone call a snake catcher. So the brave tween decided to take matters into her own hands.
Just got this instinct and I didn't even think through. I was just like, grab the snake. Grab the snake.
She tried swinging the reptile like a hammer throw to dislodge the guinea pig from its jaws.
While I was swinging around, Dad comes out, the family comes out, everyone's still in their pyjamas.
Dad stepped in to help and tossed the snake across the garden. That did the trick and it surrendered its snack. And not a moment too soon.
So I'm just really happy that my guinea pig's still alive.
The guinea pig's fine. We can hardly even find the scratch on it.
Like the ice cream, it seems the pet is living up to its name.
Maxibon, for those who like to bite off more than they can chew.
I was actually going to call him Bruce, but I was like, that's a bit, too forward. So I was like, Maxibon.
Tiani Reid, 7 News.
Let's take a quick look at our roads right now.
Thanks, Beck. I'm Tamara Eden in the Police Report Online traffic chopper. There's been a bit of a nasty crash on the Hume Freeway happening northbound after Donnybrook Road through Calcallo, down to just the one lane, and significant hold-ups now stretching all the way back to O'Hearns Road. You can now report crime online anywhere, anytime, when you need the police, but not the sirens. Search Report Online or visit police.vic.gov.au, authorised by the Victorian Government, Melbourne. More traffic tomorrow. See you then.
Well, Jane Bunn joins us now. Jane, hello. What does it look like ending the week?
Well, Beck, Friday is looking a bit cooler than today, then the weekend is hot. We began on 15 in the city as clouds spread on through. That broke up around lunchtime, clearing to a lovely afternoon. The city has peaked at 24.3. Cloud took longer to clear in the southeast. Frankston and Phillip Island, 23 so far. But it turns sunnier in the west early, lots of 27s, even at Point Cook. Here's the cloud coming in across southwestern and south central Victoria, but not reaching the rest of Gippsland as expected. Bright sunshine all day in the north as the cloud breaks up further south. The cloud impacts the temperature, compounding the effects of the location of the high. That high is centred here, back over to our west, letting air come up from the Southern Ocean. There is a cold front set to clip us overnight, introducing a slightly cooler air mass. but it doesn't linger long. By the end of tomorrow, high pressure is starting to move out to our east. Meanwhile, it continues wet in the far northeast from the remains of Cyclone Kirrily. With the high to our west and that clipping front, it is a few degrees cooler in the south tomorrow. With that high moving through, both north and south heat up. Saturday, warm to hot. Then the heat peaks on Sunday. Now, we haven't had a lot of northerly winds this summer and we'll notice it, especially all through the Brown area and through here, which is well over 40 degrees. This comes with increased fire danger. It doesn't last. The next cool change sweeps on through, making it mild again for most by Monday. This is as rain moves through New South Wales. See the area where it's cooler all in through here? That is fed by the remains of the cyclone. Around the nation, tomorrow is sunshine in Brisbane, mostly dry in Sydney, warm in Adelaide. Perth reached 43 today, 44.6 at the airport. A cool change arrives tomorrow afternoon. To Victoria, the front pushes cloud, the odd light shower across the south, gradually clearing southwest during the day. The south cool to mild, the north mild to warm and generally sunny. So in Melbourne, there is the odd light shower in the morning, areas of cloud, but that will clear. It clears to sunshine during the afternoon. We're heading for a top of 21. That's the latest, more at 6.
Thank you very much, Jane. Well, the families are desperate, coming up at 6, the family's desperate message after the Phillip Island drowning tragedy. Good news for Victorians looking for a new car, while buyers are back in the front seat. And the moment Australians get the life-changing call, they've won the lotto. That is all ahead with Peter Mitchell at 6 o'clock. And that is all from Melbourne's afternoon news. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll be back again tomorrow from 4. Until then, please take care. Goodbye.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.